My oldest daughter, who's almost 11, has been walking this path on the Iowa School for the Deaf campus for as long as she can remember. Our family has been coming down to this path and campus for years to walk under the trees on the outside of the campus. When my daughter was only a few years old, I remember she would ask why the students kept waving their hands around, and she was amazed when we told her that they were actually having a conversation via American Sign Language. And within the last year or two, she's actually taken up learning ASL so that she can have conversations with people in the deaf community. ISD has had an impact on the Council Bluffs community for over 100 years and does tremendous work investing in the potential of their students. I've known several graduates over the years, and it's awesome that they've been prepared to go make their mark on the world and serve their community. But I'm also grateful for the way that this place has impacted my family, and specifically my daughter. It's one thing to be open to inviting others into your community, but to do this work of learning a language to take a step toward others, that's something that I'm really challenged by and proud of. This week I launched an art collection that I'm calling the Building Tomorrow series, and it's a series of ink and watercolor portraits of some schools in Council Bluffs, and it's also a chance to raise some awareness and funds for arts education. Thomas Jefferson High School was built in the early 1920s because Council Bluffs had grown big enough to need separation into multiple districts. TJ was established on the west side of Council Bluffs, and Abraham Lincoln would be built on the east side. And while most of my family attended other schools, my wife's grandma, Doris, grew up on the west side of the city and attended TJ in the early 1960s. It was a thought that came back to me often as I worked on this piece that 60 years ago, she would have been walking into this same building with her friends and classmates. There's a sense of place that seems to get lost in this age of constant movement and change. My family has moved 3 times just in the last 10 years, but knowing the history of buildings like this one feels like it anchors me in a way that I didn't know I needed. One of my favorite authors, Andrew Peterson, talks about this idea of being anchored to a place in his book, The God of the Garden. He says that we become deeply connected to the places that we have tended over time. And I have to think that this applies to the places where we have been tended to as well. I'm really grateful for places like TJ and the people within that have tended to the needs of students for over 100 years. In 1921, the students on the west end of Council Bluffs moved into the newly built Thomas Jefferson High School, and the previously named Council Bluffs High School was renamed as Abraham Lincoln High School. In the 1960s, construction began on the current building, which was completed in several phases and used by Eastside Junior High until 1967, when the junior high students were moved into the original high school on Bluff Street, and AL moved into the building that it occupies today. I never attended AL in spite of begging my parents to send me there, and many of my friends went to high school there. I always felt welcomed by not only them, but by the friends of my friends as well. It was a big school compared to the small town one that I attended, and it felt like there was a kind of place for everyone there, including me. I tend to think it wasn't actually the building or the administration that caused this to happen, though. I attribute that welcoming feeling to the individuals who were willing to invite a socially awkward, nerdy kid into their circle of friends. It's a posture that shaped me a lot. So if you went to AL between about 2002 and 2007, thanks. In 1966, there was a mandate made by the Iowa State Legislature to merge some of the smaller schools into the Council Bluffs School District. The residents were also able to vote on this, and while schools like Carter Lake and Crescent did vote to merge, Lewis Central declined and built their own high school. I'll be honest, while I live in the Lewis Central School District now, I have the least personal experience with this school until this last year. Last summer, my kids needed to start taking swim lessons, so we signed them up for lessons that were taught by the Lewis Central swim team. I kind of assumed that there would be adults leading the lessons and the swim team just had to assist, but I was wrong. Every class was organized, taught, and tested by members of the high school swim team. And you know what? They were amazing. They worked hard with my kids, they managed their mischief, they managed the parents who wanted to be too involved from the pool side. It was incredible. It was obvious that, at least for the swim team, these were young men and women who were being trained to be leaders. Then, earlier this year, I had the first opportunity in many years to attend the Iowa caucuses for this year's election, and it was held in the school auditorium. It was actually kind of fun sitting and listening to people talk about why they liked a given candidate, and do so in a room with other neighbors who may agree or disagree on politics, but at the end of the night, you live next door to one another, and that relationship trumped politics, no pun intended. But you know what I noticed more than the friendly political banter? These people knew each other, and many had gone to school themselves in the district and now had their own kids in school there. I lost count of the number of people who mentioned having went to school there and then moved right back when they started a family of their own. It's a good feeling to know that there are kids who are being raised to be tomorrow's leaders in your area. It's also a good feeling to know that some of those kids will come back and reinvest themselves in this community, just like their parents have done. In a world that seems to be losing its mind in so many ways, it's a comfort to know that some people are still putting their head down and investing in the community and the people around them. It encourages me to want to do the same. To find out more about this collection of paintings in the Building Tomorrow series, you can head to danmorsemusic.com and follow me here to see more content like this.